right, we got a little bit to talk about. Zach Ertz is re-signing with the Arizona Cardinals. We just saw Michael Gallup get a 5-year, $12.5 million a year deal, so $62.5 million. Big boy bucks for the receiver that just tore his ACL. They have a lot of confidence in him coming back. Obviously, you have to kind of see how that contract is structured. It might be a 1 or 2 year deal, but we shall see. Zach Ertz, on the other hand, winds up becoming one of the top 10 highest paid tight ends on the market. Going to be interesting to see how the Jets approach the tight end position and the wide receiver position. And then we heard today, New York Jets are in the mix for Allen Robinson. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I mean, I feel like we've been in the mix with literally every player because we're being used as leverage to get more money from their current teams. Frustrating. Absolutely frustrating. So, let's go through it one by one. Zach Ertz, I don't know where the Jets go in terms of tight end. I think as far as guys left on the market, you got Everett from the Rams. You got Ingram from the Giants. You got Tanyan from the Packers. And then you have O.J. Howard down in Tampa Bay. I think of those, Tanyan and Howard appear the most attractive to me. I think the upside to Howard is where I'm at with him. And then I would say on the Tanyan side, you're hoping for upside, right? Like he had, I think it was a torn ACL last year, so he should be good to go for camp. But you got to go back and kind of see. What do we do? Do you go that route with tight end? I feel like you have to bring in a veteran because our tight end room is not very good, and I definitely want to go tight end in the draft. Now, there's a conversation to be had. Do you double dip at rookie tight end, and then all of a sudden you got both your tight ends, but you're going with a young group and not someone that might be able to be a safety net right off the bat for Zach Wilson. So I'm not going to lie, the tight end market has really been sucked dry, and I think what you're seeing right now is a bunch of teams locking in their players on contracts because they don't think that the draft is maybe as strong in those particular areas. I think. Or the cap's going up and everyone just wants to spend a bunch of money and retain their own guys. This is why the NFL draft is so important and why we need to hit on our picks. Because then you can retain your key talent. You don't have to worry about trying to overpay. You get 5 years, 4 years, whatever it is, to try and negotiate a contract with your guys. I see D Jones says CJ Uzma. That would be a good option as well. He's the is he Bengals? Where's Uzma? I don't know. I heard about him, and I have not watched any on him. So I unfortunately can't speak too confidently on him. But I did hear that our tight ends coach, Ron Middleton, unprovoked, complimented him and said how much he likes him. So I could see that. But this is why you need to draft well, boys and girls, because then you can hold on to your players. It's the youth movement, as Snowball would say. This is the first time I've ever actually seen the elusive Snowball on here. If you guys remember from last year. Oh, man. Gonna be a little bit of a challenge at the tight end position. Now, as far as wide receiver goes, Godwin, torn ACL, franchise tagged. Michael Gallup, massive contract, $12.5 a year, which is actually more than I thought he was going to get. I think he would have done better on a 1-year deal. And then I thought he would have set himself up for a really, really nice payday. But I think after an ACL, knowing you're going to be in Dallas and being one of Jerry's boys, I think is probably important. And then in the mix with Allen Robinson. What's going to happen with the wide receiver position? Because I thought Allen Robinson was going to be like the discounted wide receiver of the group. And now that everyone's been re-signed or traded for, who knows? Who knows what happens? Because now you're going to overpay for Allen Robinson. And I don't want that. I will say Allen Robinson gives me shades of like Maybe a Brandon Marshall 2.0. Like, it gets me like excited. Guy coming from the Bears, bigger bodied dude. I don't know. I would love to replicate that. But I saw an interesting tweet from Rich Cimini, and it was the top 5 highest spending teams in free agency over the course of the last 6 years, and how they increased their win total by spending a ton of money that year. And the Patriots were at the top of the list last year. And then they showed the second year. Like all the wins went downhill. Like, everyone got better the first year, but year 2 after signing a bunch of guys when everything goes down the toilet. So I know as much as we want to spend a ton of money in free agency and really revamp this team, I'm not sure that's the right route. Allen Robinson, not on a discount, is a little more concerning to me. But do you want to spend number 10 on a wide receiver? There's a good shot that you're going to get your top guy at number 10. The only teams that I could see realistically taking a receiver really early, the Cardinals, maybe the Giants, if they think they're going to lose all their receivers after next year. I'm pretty sure they can get out of Galladay's contract. I think they can get out of like 2 of the 3 of their wide receivers contracts. So maybe they're in play. Who knows? Maybe Seattle trades DK, and then they're in play. Who knows? A lot's going to hinge on a lot of things these next few days. It's hard to gauge the draft at this point. The draft is probably the most attractive spot because you're getting your guy locked in on a 5-year deal if you take him in the first round, a 4-year deal if you're taking him in any other round. I still stand by, I think the sweet spot for wide receiver value-wise is in the second round. And that's still, even with like all the not so great free agent stuff that's going on, I think I'm still on board with receiver in the second round. If they decide Garrett Wilson's the guy or Drake London's the guy, hey, whatever, green light. We need weapons. I'm all about it. But then there's this other tiny part of me that thinks if we want to run 2 tight end sets, which is another issue because we don't have tight ends, but if we want to run ideally 2 tight end sets, then you're only having 2 wide receivers on the field at that time because you're going to have Michael Carter in the backfield. So if you look at it that way, you got Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, 2 guys on the field, totally capable, but you just want to make sure they are going to stay healthy. We lost Elijah Moore for a little bit. We lost Corey Davis for like the back half of the year, but he was on pace for a good season. Now, obviously, Zach Wilson gets a little bit better. Maybe you don't need to upgrade the receiver room as drastically in free agency as we may have been led to believe. But I do think you have to build through the draft. Got to build through the draft. Let's see. What are you guys saying over here in the chat? Frank Haver says the Falcons must take a wide out. Yeah, I think they're going to have to. I don't know. But I think Falcon fans are probably on board with saying values in the second round. That's why I think top of the second round is where you're going to get a bunch of guys starting to go. Let's see. Connor says, give me JC and Howard and someone on the line to help Zach. I'm still on board with Garden free agency. We were just associated with La'el Collins from the Cowboys, but I would imagine if you make that trade or free agent signing, Becton's out the door. There's no way that you bring in La'el Collins and not play him at one of the tackle spots, and I would think you would be re-signing George Fant. I would be shocked if you did not do that. O.J. Howard, that's kind of where I'm at. I think you're going to get him really cheap, or maybe cheaper than you were necessarily thinking. J.C. Jackson, there's rumors the Chargers are going to make a really hard push for him, and I would be shocked if he did not go there. This is why you want to have a good team. If you have the good team, then the players want to come to you. Until then, you better draft well. We'll see. AABBAT Abbott says, take a receiver in the second round. Everybody gets stud wide receivers in the second round. I think that's where the value is. If you go defense heavy in the top, you go D-end and you go cornerback or D-end, trade down linebacker. That's kind of where I'm probably looking. Daniel says, NFL is king. It's amazing just how many topics you could cover in the NFL. Like, I could probably go live like pretty much every day on stuff that happens in the NFL. Like, just from I'm getting exhausted from the Russell Wilson stuff to the Deshaun Watson stuff, to the Allen Robinson, the Ertz, the Cooper. Oh, man. So much stuff. Braden says, I don't think we're getting Robinson. I don't want a wide receiver at 10. Give me Christian Watson or George Pickens, and I'll be happy. Those are actually the two receivers I would prefer to get as opposed to spending a ton of money or drafting one at number 10. And if anything, honestly, I'm hoping Jamison Williams falls to the second round because it's clear teams do not care about the ACL. You have Godwin and Gallup both getting monster contracts. So I'm not worried about it. Pickens is another one that tore an ACL, so if he's there in the second round, I'm totally good with that as well. But then I guess the concern is, are teams so unconcerned about the ACL that Williams does not fall to the second round? He's the receiver I really, really want. Let's see. What ends up happening? Raw Power. Where is it? Raw Power says Saints and Panthers going after Watson. Sam not getting the love. Sam has stunk for a long, long time. So it does not surprise me that he's not getting much love. Let's see. D. Vieira says, if you see Berrios as a key piece of the offense, just give him $6 or $7 million a year, make up the difference with a signing bonus so he gets his $9 million. I'm not going to lie. I really want to retain Berrios because it is so hard to get a wide receiver, and he was just so clutch at the end of this season. I'd be really, really disappointed if he does wind up leaving. Zachary Berner says, everything that we've been saying. Robert Saleh, brother, said build through the draft. Joe Douglas told us that too. We've been hearing this the whole time. Everyone that thinks we're going to be spending a ton of money in free agency, it's not really the case. I don't see it happening. What do we got? We got a super chat here. Nose Kills. Nose Kills drops in the super chat. Says, here I am at 1 a.m. standing on a frozen lake, photographing the Aurora Borealis, listening to your live jet stream. I love technology. Have a good stream. Nose Kills. That's so cool. I want to see the Northern Lights in the worst way. And I just got to get back up there. Ooh, no way. Tom Brady is back. Holy smokes. Did you guys see the questioning as far as it was Cristiano Ronaldo said something along the lines like, oh, are you done? He said, possibly. So as of right now, Tom Brady says, these past 2 months, I've realized my place is still on the field and not in the stands. That time will come, but it's not now. I love my teammates. I love my supportive family. They make it all possible. I'm coming back for my 23rd season in Tampa. Unfinished business. Let's effing go. Holy smokes. Tom Brady is back. Tom Brady is back. Jeez. Did any of you see that coming? Do you think he's... Well, I guess he's going to stay in Tampa, right? That would be the guess. Mumtaz celebrates 23 months of membership. Mumtaz is about to get like the top tier little fighter jet next to his name. I can't wait to see it. He says, so far, Jets fans are drooling over every single player without doing math. Bradbury, $21 million. Frank Clark, $26 million. Amari Cooper, $20 million. We only have $50 to $60 million and $20 million for rookies. So at most, we get 3 good free agents. That's what I think you're doing. I think you're seeing a critical analysis of the cap space that we have and how much you're really going to be able to spend. I was actually wrong. I think I said $19 million for the draft class. It's actually closer to $14 million because the top 51 contracts is what counts against the cap. And because we have so many draft picks, it's pushing a lot of contracts below that 51-person threshold. So it's going to cost us $19 million to sign our draft class, but salary cap impact-wise, it's only going to cost us like $14 million. So fascinating. So where's this other one? Let's get a... Brady is back. Tom Brady returns. Where did I see that? Bam! Brady is back. Brian, Brady won't go away. I can't get rid of this damn guy. So done with it. Edward Ziff drops in with the super chat, says, number 4, Sauce. Trade back 10, get Linderbaum, an edge at 35, and a wide receiver at 38. I don't want to wait that long for an edge. I'd be so upset. I feel like a top 10 pick has to be used on edge. Unless you attract another edge in free agency, but I think you're playing a dangerous game if you do that. Bob Albro says, McBride in the second, Ruckert there in the third. Would you do it? Depends how we fill free agency out. If we don't get any tight ends and we're just kind of rolling in this blind, then I think, yeah, I'd probably double dip. Second and third, I'm not sure. I might do something like, if I got McBride in the second, then maybe I'd go Charlie Kolar in like the fourth or fifth. Or if you go Ruckert in the third, maybe you go another guy in the fourth. Something along those lines. Joe S. says, no way Jensen comes to the Jets now. Yeah, it's friggin' frustrating, right? Because there was a good shot he was going to walk away because Brady wasn't there. Now, forget it. Forget it. I don't love it. I don't love it. I don't like it. Let's see. Jamal Phillip says, Robinson is not happening for the Jets. We are always involved in possibly signing, but it never happens. He flirted a lot with the Jets last offseason. I don't know if you remember, but he was saying he would love to play for Robert Saleh. He said something along the lines, or maybe he was like retweeting or liking comments about him going to the Jets and getting a big contract. I would say there's potential to it happening. I'm not going to say I'm banking on it happening, but I think there's a lot of potential to this. Frank Pagan says, starting to think salary cap means crap. How do these teams like the Cowboys and Cap Hell still manage to slap tags on Schultz and re-sign players like Gallup? I don't understand the salary cap the way I thought I did, because there's just no way to... I don't understand how the Saints can get under the salary cap, the Packers can get under the salary cap, the Cowboys can get under the salary cap. Like, if it's that easy to get under the salary cap, why the hell are we just spinning our tires as the New York Jets? You got to draft well, and then you can extend good players longer. That's how the Saints have been doing it. The Saints have been doing well draft-wise. I think it was their 2017 or 18 class, whenever they got Lattimore and Ramchick, and like I think Pete was in that class too. That class, Kamara was in that class. Absolutely awesome. And they're able to extend these guys and stretch out cap hits longer and longer. If you have bad draft picks, you don't want to keep those guys on your team. So then you wind up having guys that are on contracts that are not the best. Adam says, they're all going to go back to the Bucks. Seems players just use us to get more money other places. Yes, that's how they've been doing it for the last few off seasons, and it sucks being the team that they do that for, but I don't know. Joe Pekulik says, Bozeman's still out there. Just got a lot more expensive for him. Not great. Matthew Smith says, Ali Marpet about to unretire. I could see it. Guys wanting to go back for another run. The only reason guys retire probably is because Brady walks away. Steven says, we need a center and a guard. Zion Johnson is the answer. I don't think he makes it to the second round, though. That's not great. Not great. I guess I'll just keep this up because this seems like the topic right now. Tom Brady is returning. I'm so glad he's not on the Patriots anymore. What happens? Who is? I mean, that's got to be the clear favorite to win that division. Maybe he unretires, and then it's like a fear of like the Panthers maybe like going for Watson, and now maybe like they make a stronger push, and he's like, no, I'm done. Or you like, he won't unretire. He won't unretire. That's a weird way to say that. Yeah, not great. Yoshi goes, Tom Brady is the attention whore, is back. Yeah, God, it's like he retired for 2 months. 2 months. Guy's unbelievable from a health standpoint. Matthew Smith says, you can extend money over many years and stretch the money out. Yes, you can. But it sucks. Because we never have enough guys that are good to do this with. And when we have tried it, we wind up getting situations like the Santonio Holmes or the Mark Sanchez or Muhammad Wilkerson, where you're trying to create cap space to sign other guys, but now you're just in cap hell because of it, because you didn't re-sign the right dudes. Super frustrating. NYC Gangrene said, if he had went back to the Patriots, this would be a nightmare. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty happy Mac Jones is up there in New England and not Tom Brady. Not going to lie. Let's see. Duncan says, we are not one player away. Cooper made no sense for us with that money. Use the draft and a few key guys in free agency. It's hard to get a few key guys. You got to, get guys that are just sort of around. It seems like the first-tier guys are going to be, second-tier caliber players but getting first-tier money this year, where last year we sat for the second tier and we got second-tier guys for second-tier money. I hope I'm wrong, but not great. Connor says, Berrios needs to be re-signed. JD needs to get it done. Yes, with all the money we're seeing thrown around, it would be silly not to see us bring him back. The cap is a figment of our imagination. Douglas says, Tampa going to draft a wide receiver now. He retired because they lacked explosiveness at wide receiver. I don't know if they're going to draft a receiver, because if Godwin's ready to go by the end of the season, they just have to get into the playoffs. That's really all they have to do. So I don't know if receiver's necessarily on the table. I think because they franchised Godwin, it's probably more off the table than anything. Maybe they go in a later round to do it. Joe says, hey Ryan, saw that La'el Collins might be available via trade. Thoughts? Think he needs a change of scenery. I really like La'el Collins. He was actually the one that got accused of murder, or was a murder suspect at the draft, because his girlfriend drowned in a pool, I think is what it was. And he was not, it wasn't really on him, but teams didn't know what to make of it. So he wound up falling all the way down to the end of the draft. And he said, hey, I'm going to sit out a year if a team drafts me. So he went undrafted, wound up signing with whatever team he wanted to, which wound up being the Cowboys. Did well, wound up getting a big contract. And then now he's possibly up for a trade or going to get cut. So, if the Jets were to trade for him, I think Becton's out the door. There's no way you trade for La'el Collins and keep Becton and Fant on the same contract, or on the same team, at least. It's not like you're playing La'el Collins at guard. He is definitely a right tackle. Now, maybe they trade someone else. It's like, hey, Fant had a great year. Maybe it's worth trading him away, and maybe you get something for him, and you just bank on Becton. I don't know. I wouldn't have thought it that way, but La'el Collins, it's interesting that we're interested, but I think it's more interesting because I think that's a little concerning for Becton and Fant. Mumtaz drops in with a super chat. Mumtaz says, that's right. What's right amount for Allen Robinson? I think he would be way too expensive for Joe Douglas's taste. 3 years, $50 million, or 4 years, $66 is out of the window, I think. I think he's going to get way more than 3 years, $50 million. That puts him at what, 16.5 or 17 million a year? I think he's probably getting closer to 18 to 20, especially since he's the only guy. He's like the guy in free agency. Antonio Jimenez says Tyrann Mathieu, a.k.a. Honey Badger, to the Jets. I'd love to see this happen. This is a little, this is a few years later than I wanted to happen. This is probably 3 or 4 years too late for me. I wanted him before he went to the Chiefs. Or maybe it was before he went to I think it was before he went to the Texans, right? Because he was on Arizona first. The last time around he hit free agency, or 2 times around, I would have loved to have him. Apparently he's close with Will Park. So maybe he comes over. Jay-Z Jet fan says J.C. Jackson will re-sign with the Pats. He's using free agent to see his worth. Classic Pats move. The Patriots don't tend to spend a lot of money in free agency. I think if they're letting him walk, it's because they are letting him walk. I think they would have used the franchise tag on him if they wanted to hold on to him. Could be wrong. We'll see. Braden says James Daniels has to be the top target for us. Surely a great fit every way. $8 to $10 million. I'm not sure where the guard market is. There's a lot of guards available. James Daniels is a good one. He's a young one. He fits the zone blocking scheme, but he has a lot of penalties. Last year, I think he had 13 penalties, and I think the only person that was higher than him was Connor Williams from the Cowboys. So that's a little concerning. Mumtaz says, yeah, ESPN just changed their headline to Brady is back. You were sitting here when we were talking about it, Mumtaz. Of course we know this. IRL, the longer it takes, the more I think we sign DJ Shark instead of the bigger names. Yeah. I would say of the receivers that are out there right now, you're talking Allen Robinson, Christian Kirk, DJ Shark, I guess Berrios, Crowder, Cole, Watkins. Shark's probably the most appealing. And I think if he was a torn ACL, maybe we don't care about the ACL. And we go, hey, we're giving you a 4-year big-time contract, and it's maybe protected for injury or something like that. But he's a young guy, tall guy, that could grow with Zach Wilson. I wouldn't hate this. Would not hate this at all. Jacob says, Brady isn't coming back. He's trying to get players to re-sign with Tampa. I hope. I don't think he does this. It seems like he's absolutely coming back, but it doesn't shock me that he's kind of back and forth. He's going to have like this Brett Favre type career where it's going to be like, oh, I retire. I unretire. Oh, I'm mulling retirement. Oh, I'm back. Depends how he plays. He looked like he was exhausted after that playoff game against, who'd they lose to? It wasn't the 49ers. Who did the Bucs lose to in the playoffs? Rams? I think it was the Rams. Exhausted. He just looked beat down. Chrono Kenny says, I prefer Shark over any of the free agent wide receivers. I think because of the age and the skill set, I like him. I guess you're going to have to overpay for him. That's what's going to wind up happening. And my Jets Florida, he got bored with his family pretty quickly. Yeah, he's probably done making out with his son. Return of the Jedi Rusty Spooner said, told you Brady is going to the 49ers or the Raiders. Is he, though? I don't know. Maybe the Bucs think they could get Trey Lance in a trade. Like maybe the 49ers get Brady and Trey Lance goes to the Bucs, and now the Bucs are happy because they get a guy that they could look at for quarterback, and the 49ers are happy because they get a really, probably the best shot to get into the Super Bowl between them, the Rams, and the Packers. I would think those are probably the 3 favorites at that point. Let's see. Daniel says, what do you think about Cordero Patterson? I think he's a little old. I think he's like 33 years old. He's not someone I'd be looking to go after at this point. I prefer Berrios personally. But I do think Patterson was a really good player in Atlanta. Imagine being the guy who just bought his last touchdown pass for $500,000. Oh, man. Could you imagine? You're like, I just got Tom Brady's final touchdown pass, about $500,000, and someone's like, dude, he just unretired, and you're like, I wonder if there's insurance. I wonder if there's insurance on that type of stuff. Brady going to pull a Brett Favre every season. That's what it feels like. Joe Campione, Russell Gage for $6 million, Reed for $8 million, Tomlinson for $9 million. Drop the contracts. I wouldn't hate that. I feel like we're definitely, like, anyone who thought we were spending a ton of money in free agency was probably a little naive. I would hope that we go after Marcus Williams as like our top guy. Like, I would like to sign a big name free safety. But Reed would be a nice option. Gage, God, that would be such like a wet blanket, but like sneakily the right way to go with this type of free agency. Kevin Chata says, Gangrene Nation has a mock as Jermaine Johnson at 4. I like Jermaine Johnson a lot. I think he's squarely in the top 10 conversation. Sauce at 10. Love it. Olave at 35. I don't think he makes it there. I think he's a first-round receiver, the way he ran the 40. Scene from at 42. Man. So we trade down in some capacity. Where did we wind up getting 42? 69 is Ruckert. 73, Chanel, a pick from Indy, I guess. Strange at 109. Robinson at 115. Ferguson 145. It's interesting. I don't see it breaking like that, but it'll be interesting. Michael Dubois says, how about Allen Robinson for 3 years, $45 million, then Thibodeau at 4, then trade down from 10 to the Saints or Steelers pick and take the best player available? I do think Edge should be the pick at number 4. As much as I really like Sauce Gardner, I think Edge is such a more crucial part of this team because it impacts the rest of the defense, where corner, it does impact the rest of the defense, but you're kind of like isolating one player to the benefit of the rest, where if you have an edge rusher that's coming after the quarterback, if he can get to the quarterback fast, he's impacting the linebackers, the safeties, the cornerbacks, the other edge rushers. So yeah, I'd be for that. I think Robinson's going to be more expensive than 3 years, $45 million though. Let's see. Nania from Jets X Factor said the following are the best scheme fits in free agency: Daniels or Tomlinson. I agree with that. As right guard. Gage at wide receiver. DJ Jones at D tackle. I had DJ Jones in my 10 free agents the Jets should target. I think DJ Jones is going to wind up a New York Jet. Gage, I trust Nania. If Nania says he's a good fit, I'm all about it. Kevin Chada says, is Jermaine Johnson at 4 too rich? I don't think so. I think as far as Walker, Jermaine Johnson, Thibodeau, Hutchinson, and Karlaftis go, those 5, if you fall in love with any one of them, I think any one of them is definitely a top 10 pick, and I think you could make the argument for top 4 depending on how strongly you feel about them just because of the premium position. I think the edge rushers are all clumped together, which is kind of where I was saying Sauce at 4, edge rusher at 10, because you can get any number of these guys if you like a whole bunch of them. My only issue is now with the Ridley issue in Atlanta. I think they're going to go receiver. So at 10, you may not get the number 1 receiver. And then Seattle, I think, is going to go for an edge rusher. And so that takes 1 off the board. So that's a little frustrating. Let's see. Jared asks, do you think a number 1 wide receiver or number 1 tight end will help Zach more? Number 1 tight end, 100%. Because Corey Davis and Elijah Moore are both really good. I have no problem with those receivers at all. Tight end, we got a big issue. He's the safety blanket for your young quarterback. Joe says, you do realize the experts' mock drafts are correct less than 20% of the time. I do. And what's cool, if you do the mock-out contest, I think it shows you like where you ranked in terms of like the entire country at the end of it. And our first one that we did 3 years ago now, whatever it was, I was top 2 or 3% in the country, I think. So that was kind of cool. That was really neat. Gil says, what are the chances of signing J.C. Jackson? I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. Snowball says, what is Antonio Brown doing these days? Not much. Nania also said Greg Van Roten was average and not below average. I immediately unsubbed after that comment. He's starting to get I can't be wrong type of guy. No, don't say that. Nania is really good. He's a smart dude. He breaks down film real well, and he knows statistics really well. I don't like Greg Van Roten. I would say I probably disagree with that take. But saying he was average might be average for the league, which may not be that good. So a lot of ways you can read into it. But I don't normally disagree with Nania. Let's see. Rafe says, if Kayvon doesn't fall, who do you want the most at 4? Okay, so let's say we solve offensive line in free agency. We get Tomlinson at guard or something along those lines. And then, for the sake of argument, let's say 3 edge rushers go in front of us. So we're down to like the 4th guy. So it's like Hutch, Kayvon, and I don't know, let's say Walker is there. I think Sauce is squarely in play at 4. I really do. And then if you can trade down from 10 and slide back a little bit, maybe that is the play. I think edge should be the 4th pick, though. Kevin says, do you see the Seahawks trade with us at 4 because they fall for a quarterback, Willis, seeing he has Wilson's traits? I think we should wait and like see if a team's willing to jump up, because I would trade down from 4. Ninja Dude with Tom Brady coming back. I doubt Jensen will hit free agency. I think he will, but I think he comes back. I don't think he's looking to walk away from the Bucs with Tom Brady there. Lee says JJ will be the best pass rusher in this year's draft. He's a little bit older. I think he's a super senior because of the transfer thing. So he's 23, where Kayvon is 21, I believe. That's all right. I like Jermaine Johnson. I think he's just a really good dude. I watched a few interviews with him, and he seems like he just kind of gets it. We'll see. How much would it take to sign Marcus Williams? I think it's going to cost you 5 years, $15 million a year. So what is that, $75 million? And I think you do it. I think you got to pay for talent, right? And the Jets are in a position right now where they could get premium talent or talent at premium positions in the draft. You can get your wide receiver, you could get your corner, you could get your edge rusher early in this draft. So overspending a little bit on maybe a non-premium position like a safety traditionally is thought of would be the right way to go. And Marcus Williams should be on our list. Matt Riley says, do you think Carlton Davis still leaves now that Brady is back? I think it makes it a lot less likely. But if he's able to get a ton of money, it would be a mistake to stay, considering he already has a ring from just 2 years ago. Super senior sounds like an Omicron variant. So we used to call the 5th-year seniors. John says, what are the chances the Jets signing Robbie Anderson? Slim to none, because you're going to have to trade for him. And I don't think we're trading for him. Let's see. Where else are you going with this? Tony says Moali Cox could certainly be an option. Ooh. Hamilton, then Sauce, then Watson, then McBride, first 4 picks. I want an edge rusher still. I still want an edge rusher. I don't want to pass on the edge rusher. Jordan Jack says, when we look at the cap, we have a lot of money next year. We have a lot more flexibility than you think. Yeah, you could load some of these contracts 1 year later if you really wanted to, or give them a signing bonus, spread it out over a few years. I hope the Jets really go into tomorrow hoping to get Marcus Williams. Let's see. You'd probably have to add next year's first to that package to get DK. Seattle doesn't want to trade him. I don't think they go after DK, and I don't think DK gets traded. Daniil Hunter, thoughts? I would love to trade for him. Rafe says, thoughts on George Pickens in the 2nd round? I like him a lot. I think he did raise up to the 2nd round. He was about a 3rd round prospect because of the ACL tear, a little bit of stuff off the field. I do like him. I like him a lot. I think he could have an argument for one of the best receivers in the draft had he not been hurt and had the season people projected him to have this past year. John says, just imagine the Jets trading for Mahomes even though he has a no trade clause. Yeah, I mean, it would be nice. Stud City says, not saying either one of us are right about Gage. Just want to put it out there that people forgot Gage was a free agent, and I did bring him up before Nania did. I have heard a few people talk about Gage. I haven't watched him enough, but if they think he's a fit, who am I to argue? Kev says, what Super Bowl hungry free agents flock to the Bucs now that Brady is back? I don't know. I think there's going to be a few options for for teams to go to Super Bowl caliber teams. I think it's the Rams. I think it's the Bucs. I think it's the Packers in the NFC that seem the most attractive because it's the easiest path to the Super Bowl. In the AFC, you're probably looking at like the Bengals, the Chargers. You still have the Chiefs, the Bills. There's a lot of teams that are going to get have a lot of options. Matt says, do you think the Jets sign someone tomorrow? They probably will, but it's going to be someone like Jared Davis where we're not like super enthusiastic about it. And we're like, really? That's what we just did? We did what as our first free agent? Jeff Wilson would be a nice behind Carter and Coleman if they don't grab the running back from BYU. I really like James Cook from Georgia. He's probably the running back I like the most right now. Antonio says, sign OBJ because, we need a guy with an ACL tear from the Super Bowl. And then draft Garrett Wilson at 10, Davis, Moore, OBJ, and Wilson. I think Wilson is what you hope Wilson turns into OBJ. I don't think you go after OBJ. OBJ wouldn't come here anyway. I think I would stay in LA if I were him. Lex Anon says, Brady came back so he could make his way to San Francisco if the Bucs go after Watson. That would be interesting. If they say, hey, trade me to San Francisco, that's where I'd be cool to go with. If you want Watson, trade me to San Francisco, get more ammo for me to go get Watson. And then Watson goes to the Bucs, Brady goes to the 49ers. That'd be interesting. I could see it. I don't know how many picks the Bucs have or the 49ers have to give up after the Trey Lance trade. I'd have to really look into that. BK Khan says Sauce and London. That would be really cool. I would like that. I still don't want receiver at number 10, but I could get behind it. It's not like I don't want receiver at 10. I just think the value is better at 35. Devindra says, if we miss on Allen Robinson free agency, do you take wide receiver at 10 or still go defense? It's going to depend who's there. Because if you go edge at 4, and the top receiver's on the board and Sauce is off the board, and you don't really get any trade offers because no one wants to jump in front of Washington anymore, then yeah, I'd probably consider a receiver. I think it's important enough where you have to make that kind of jump. And the nice thing would be you have a 2-year gap from Elijah Moore, who was a second round pick last year, who has a 4-year contract. 1 year has gone, so he's got 3 years left on his deal. You draft the first round wide receiver, then you have a 5-year contract. So you have your wide receivers spaced out a little bit more nicely than stacking second round picks where it's 1 year after the other. So there's some benefit to that. Kenneth says, who are your top 5 edge rushers in this draft? I would say we're going off skill. I'm still standing by Kayvon gives me the heebie-jeebies, but I would say he's top 5 for sure. So if you say Hutch, Thibodeau, Walker, Johnson, Karlaftis, that's probably my top 5. Not necessarily in that order, but those would be my top 5. Marcus Metcalf, how much would you pay for Allen Robinson? I don't love it, but I think I'd go as high as 17 at this point just to try and get him. But then how many years are you going to have to offer? The benefit of getting Cooper was that you could cut him after 1 year and you could still draft a second-round guy. So I don't know. I'm not sure what Allen Robinson winds up going for. Jets Gang says, Marcus Williams is the first person we sign. I hope so. It should be the first guy we go after. Benjamin Winton says, bruh, Brady really unretiring and coming back. Shake my head. Matt O'Laggy on Tuesday. What's next for Delgado? What BS is he coming up with next? Delgado always screws me up. He's always saying something stupid. It wouldn't shock me if he's in the chat. O'Leary, I'm not sure what happened with his stream. He's been having issues with his computer, so I think that might be it. I think 2 weeks ago, he might have been on his laptop and it worked a little bit better. So we'll try to get it ironed out before we go live this week. New York Jeff. Thank you so much for the super chat, brother. He says, for tomorrow, guys, remember, stress is nothing but the distance between your expectations and reality. As your expectations rise, your reality may not This causes stress. Trust the process, people. That is a great sentiment. Great sentiment. Stress is nothing but the distance between your expectations and reality. Someone should put that on a shirt. That's a really good line. But yeah, that's just it. Like, Jet fans' expectations going into the offseason, we're getting Dalton Schultz like he's our top guy. I'm going after Godwin. I'm going after Gallup. And look, I wanted both of them. Clearly, both didn't hit the market. I wanted all three of them. Of course, you want the top guys. You never get the opportunity, though. Let's see. Rafe says, 3-round mock. Kayvon, Sauce, best wide receiver on the board. Brisker, Jeremy Ruckert. I'm not going to lie. Like, there's part of me that doesn't want to go for McBride because I think that second-round pick is so valuable to other positions. But since we're striking out so much in free agency and, like, the guys we were hoping to be able to sign, I don't know how you pass on McBride if he's there. I almost hope McBride goes in the first round so another player falls a little bit more because I don't know if there's any other tight ends I really feel comfortable with pulling the trigger in the second round. Jeremy Ruckert in the third, possibly fourth, because you got to remember, too, he didn't participate at the Senior Bowl, and he didn't run at the Combine. So you don't know exactly what teams think of him. So maybe the best route is edge rusher corner, which is kind of what I've been saying in the first round. Wide receiver, who falls to the second round, because you're going to get a top-end talent. I think that's going to be there at 35. 38 is definitely a sweet spot. There's like 4 or 5 really good safeties in this draft. And then Jeremy Ruckert is the hometown favorite. Maybe you pair him with a Charlie Kolar a little bit later, so that way you double dip at tight end. You kind of hedge your bets a bit. I don't hate this at all. Frank says, did Amari Cooper have to waive a no-trade clause to go to Cleveland? Nope. Amari Cooper did not have a no-trade clause. No-trade clauses are pretty rare in the NFL. It's usually reserved for quarterbacks for the most part. But no, Cleveland basically said, hey, we're going to take on his entire contract. We're cool with it. Every other team that contacted the Cowboys said, we'd like you to eat a little bit of the contract, and we will trade you a pick, including the Jets. So, little bit there. JC says, as much as we say our team sucks, maybe Robinson wants to be in New York. They won't be able to double him with Davis and Moore. I hope we wind up with Robinson. I'd be really, really happy if we wind up getting him. DiViera, yeah, Burks opted not to run the 40 in his pro day. He isn't top 10 worthy. I think he's concerned he's going to run. He was going to run slower. He ran was it a 4.55 at his height? Yeah, not good. Not good for Burks. I think Burks is going to be there in the second round, unless someone pulls the trigger like late first. But I don't think he's top 10. Devin says, do you prefer Tomlinson or Daniels if we sign a right guard? I would prefer Tomlinson and then draft a guard in a later round to groom and hopefully take over for him when he gets a little bit older. Daniels I like, but he causes a lot of penalties. I think Tomlinson just kind of hits the ground running, and that's definitely where I would go. Anthony G says, Williams would be great, but Reed may be the better value and more of a JD type signing. Yes, I do think Williams is the better character fit than Reed, but Reed value-wise is definitely an upside type guy. So I would be kind of with you on that. I do think that Reed provides better value and maybe more Joe Douglas's pace, I guess. Kenneth says, are we going to be stuck with Croft and Griffin again? No. I was hoping to cut Griffin. Might have to hold on to him now. I think you got to re-sign Croft. I'm pretty sure Croft was on a 1-year deal last year. I'm actually not sure. Joshua says, do you really expect any top-tier signings? JD doesn't do that. He wants to build through the draft. I think Robinson, Jackson, and the like are all too pricey for JD. I agree, Joshua. I completely agree. I think we're going bargain hunting in free agency, and we're going to hit the draft the same way we did the last 2 years. Captain Boss says, I'm telling you, Sauce, Jermaine Johnson, trade up for Burks, and McBride is the ideal draft. I do think there's a really good shot that the Jets wind up moving up at the end of the first round. I don't know who that player's for. It might be McBride. If they fall in love with him, I want to make sure we get him. And getting him on a 5th-year option is probably not the bad move, even though first round tight ends historically are, it's too rich to take that type of player there. More often than not, if you go back and look at drafts, aside from Pitts and maybe Hawkinson, for the last 10 years, generally speaking, the players taken just after tight ends, you're like, I should have taken that guy. That would have been the move. Edward Ziff, thanks so much for the super chat. He says, Joe D won't panic. Neither should we. Still evaluating Zach. Not ready for big free agents yet. Probably spend next year. Edge rushers available 2023. I don't know who's available 2023. I feel like you got to get an edge rusher now. I would almost like to give Zadarius Smith a 1-year prove-it contract and then decide between Lawson and Zadarius Smith between who's healthy next year and give them a big contract, after that year. But we'll see. They both have injury concerns. But I would like to get an edge rusher this year. BK Khan says, Jelani Woods in the second, keep Croft. I would be so mad if we took Jelani Woods in the second. I really don't want to do that. His Senior Bowl was elite, but I don't want to do that. Should the Jets trade both seconds for an extra first? If you trade, I did a video on this. If you trade both seconds, it gets you up to around pick 15. If you trade a second and a third, it gets you up to like pick 21. If you trade pick 38 and a third, it gets you up to like pick 24. And then I think if you trade 35 and the 4th round pick, it gets you up to like 29. That's where I would go. I don't want to really trade the 3rd round pick particularly, but if there's someone you covet, why not? If you can get 4 guys from this draft that you think are day 1 starters, and you get Sauce, an edge rusher, a wide receiver, and a tight end, if you can hit those 4 positions, I don't care about the rest of the draft. Shotgun shell it. Just get as many pieces across the offensive line, areas that you could really get some depth in. And I would trade down later too. I think this is a draft. This is a draft for the Jets that would benefit them if they had a lot of draft picks later because of that Senior Bowl. We're going to have a lot of inside knowledge that I think is going to be incredibly valuable to this draft. And maybe why the Jets are not forking over the picks like we want them to do for these high-priced guys. Who is the John Abraham clone that we can get in this draft? I don't know. If I knew, I wouldn't be doing this. I'd be scouting for a team. That would be nice, though. Someone with good bend. I don't remember when Abraham was drafted. Like, I don't remember his college tape or anything like that. I was too young to really like pay attention to that sort of stuff. But man, I want him. I want someone like him at least. Would you rather Robinson at 17 or Shark and Gage for the same amount of money? I would prefer Shark and Gage, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Shark's going to get way more money than people expect. I think he's going to get around $14 million a year, and I think Gage is going to get around 10, just because of how things are going. John says, have you seen the tape on Matt Razor, the punter? He's incredible. He's kicking 80-yard punts in games. Let's get him. No. We have man. I don't want to go out and get another punter. John says, any chance Hutch falls to 4? I think there's a legit shot. I was looking at Hutch, and I did not realize that he was not a fit for the Lions because they run a 3-4. Their defensive coordinator, our former safety, is that right? I think that's right. Former defensive backs coach for the Saints. Losing my train of thought right now. Is it Aaron Glenn? That sounds right. Yes. No? Maybe. Whatever. Their defensive coordinator now. Runs a 3-4. Hutch is a 4-3 defensive lineman. So, yeah, if in the situation where maybe the Jags don't go Hutch at the top of the draft, maybe they go offensive line, maybe Hutch is not the fit for the Lions, they go Kayvon, then number 3 rolls around. Who knows what you wind up doing. Stay Woke TV says, thoughts on getting Landry, Chandler Jones, and tight end Hurst or Yamoa or Uzma or whatever his name is. I don't want Jarvis Landry. He doesn't want to come here from what I've been hearing too. Chandler Jones, yeah, I'm all on board with Chandler Jones. I really like Chandler Jones a lot. Any chance we get Honey Badger? I think there's an off chance, for sure. I don't think he's the same player he was just a few years ago. Ryan, do you think Saquon to the Jets is realistic? I do not. I don't think Joe Douglas is going to do that. Dave G, think we can get Frank Clark? We could. I don't know what his production's been like the last few years. I'd have to kind of dive into him a little bit more, but we need an edge rusher. If we go edge in free agency, I guess you don't go it in the draft, but I would prefer to get our edge at the top of the draft. This is an edge-heavy draft. Get the one you like at 4. Wow, Vikings just gave Cousins a 1-year, fully guaranteed $35 million deal. Has anyone ever made more money doing nothing than Kirk Cousins? I'll give Kirk a ton of credit. And look, I wanted Kirk when we, wound up drafting Sam. I'm disappointed we didn't get him because then we could have had Quentin Nelson, DK Metcalf, like a lot. I think was Darius Leonard part of that? I don't know if Darius Leonard was, but we could have had a lot of players if we didn't wind up taking Sam. We wound up taking Kirk Cousins. That would have been the play. Hindsight is always 20/20, but whatever. I give Kirk a lot of props. He played on 2 consecutive franchise tags and bet on himself and got the first fully guaranteed contract. So I give him a lot of credit for doing that because that's not a safe move by any means. All right, Tony says, What Watson moving? It's time to trade. Oh, with Watson moving, it's time to trade for Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks doesn't want to be traded. I don't know if I want to trade for a guy that would be upset if he wound up being here. Cooks is number 1, or I think he is. I wouldn't hate it. I don't know what you have to give up to get him, though. All right, guys, I've got dinner on the table, so I've got to head out. It's been fun. Guys, let me know your thoughts on Ertz going back to the Cardinals, Robinson in the mix for the New York Jets, and let me hear everything you want to say about Tom Brady down below. But that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Jets Talk, signing off. Jets.